I am not a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's writing style or even a rabid fan of the Lord of the Rings movies, but I'm a big fan of fantasy. So is that enough to hook me in to Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power? Stick around and I will share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the series premiere of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episodes 1 and 2. The synopsis on IMDb reads, epic drama set thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, follows an ensemble cast of characters, both familiar and new, as they confront the long-feared re-emergence of evil to Middle-earth. And the synopsis for Episode 1 says, Galadriel is disturbed by signs of an ancient evil's return. Arondir, I don't remember how they said it, Arondir makes an unsettling discovery. Elrond is presented with an intriguing new venture. Nori breaks a deeply held community rule. Not a lot of detail. I mean, you can already tell how thinly it's spread. Episode 2, Galadriel finds a new ally. Elrond faces a cold reception from an old friend. Nori endeavors to help a stranger. Arondir searches for answers while Bronwyn warns her people of a threat. So it's like, man, there's a lot of characters, a lot of stuff going on. What does this thing feel like? Well, I think drama is a good key word when the synopsis says an epic drama set thousands of years, blah, blah, blah. It's not very adventurous. There's very little action. There are bursts of action, but it's not frequent at all. And I found it to be fairly slow. I hoped that would change with the second episode, but it didn't. It spends more time than I think it needs to setting up characters, setting up situations, rather than actually moving things forward. In particular, I wanted more time given to Galadriel's relationship with her brother, which would have been, I think, better, if you're going to spend time investing in just setting up status quos and relationships and stuff like that, I think that relationship would have been much better to spend time on, because her relationship with her brother is at the heart of Galadriel's motives for all that she sets out to do, presumably for this entire season. Instead, precious time is given to setting up a forbidden romance between a human and elf that I feel no reason to invest in or care about, or time given showing hobbits kind of being funny little hobbits. I didn't find that aspect of the movies really interesting either, but I have a cold dead heart, so your mileage will certainly vary compared to mine. But even so, beyond just showing hobbits being cute and funny and silly, they've got time given to the main hobbit character interacting with this mystery man that I'm just impatiently waiting for him to recover from his amnesia so we can move the story along. We all kind of know, I assume, unless there's some Tolkien lore about this guy, that keeps him in amnesia forever. I'm thinking he's gonna recover his memory. And right now, we're just slowing things down by not establishing who he is, what's motivating him, what's his relevance to the story. Let's move things forward. I'm not even talking about action. I just want the plot bullet points to bubble to the surface more quickly. The dialogue is also either buttoned up with formality, largely in the case of the elves, or just different enough in style, say like with the hobbits or the dwarves. Well, the dwarves maybe not as much as the hobbits. Anyway, it's just different enough to present a slight barrier to my connection with characters. That would not be an issue on its own, but on top of that, time is not given for performances to really draw me in the way I want. The performances are solid, and I'll get to that, and they are, they're being employed well while lines are being delivered, but there's not near as much time. If you compare this to something like, say, Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, where there's long stretches of characters not saying anything, but the performances are still telling us who these characters are, what's driving them. The story is even progressing while nothing is being said, and you can, relate to these characters because you can relate to the universal language of their emotions rather than necessarily how they express themselves verbally. The stakes are also not emphasized enough for me, or even made as clear as I want them to be. The big bad that once caused centuries of war is on the run and thought defeated. So there's a big sense of scale and stakes at the very beginning. So we know that ultimately what this big bad could do, we have a sense of that, I guess, but how is he going to pull that off? How is he going to regather an army or build up his forces? How's he going to get things to that level again when, last we saw him, he was pretty much on his own, on the run, and seemingly defeated. So what threat can he be if he resurfaces? How can he be a threat? And what are the things that need to happen to stop him? I'm pretty sure, I don't remember perfectly, but I'm pretty sure that by this point in that first Fellowship of the Ring movie, Sauron's forces were killing people, we knew Sauron was raising an army, and we knew the only way to stop him was to destroy the One Ring. By, I think, about 2 hours into that movie, maybe just a little bit more, I'm not sure, but about the same time, invested in that, we had much more advancement and sense of the stakes at play. In over 2 hours of this story, I still don't have a sense of what what bad thing is going to happen, who exactly will do it, and how they need to be stopped. In fact, I feel like there's a reference to two big bads in this, Sauron and some other name that starts with M. I don't know if they're the same person, or I don't know. I guess I missed some details there. So it's just not a clear enough focus on who the big bad is, what they can do, and how they need to be stopped. It's mostly a collection of ominous happenings that I assume will eventually be linked to the big bad who's out there and hiding somewhere. Now, maybe if I knew more Tolkien lore, I'd bring anticipation of some things with me. I'm sure there's some Tolkien fans that would say, "Oh man, but if you only knew this is coming and this, and oh, this is foreshadowing this." I don't know any of that stuff, and I don't think it's unreasonable that I want this show to not require me to have knowledge of the Silmarillion and or even be a big fan of the Lord of the Rings movies and have those stories fresh in my mind. I really want, in cases like this, even if it's based on an existing IP that's really well known in other places, I want this story to stand on its own. And as this story is standing on its own, it's just not hooking me in. Now, as far as casting goes, I think the cast all feels solid to me. I think these are quality actors doing their thing. Although I do have trouble connecting with Elrond because of how stoic and formal he is, how much of that is performance, how much of that is the character itself, how much of that is the direction, I don't know. But the same also goes for the Elven Archer that's featured in the Forbidden Romance that they seem to be trying to set up. Both of these characters, just especially the Archer, seem just a little stoic or wooden or something, and so I'm just not interested in those performances. The seemingly random racial diversity casting also feels a bit distracting to me. I would have preferred that an entire people group in this story, such as the dwarves that we see, or maybe even a better fit would be the nomadic hobbits, for an entire people group to be made up of black actors, or all of them made up of Latino actors, or whatever ethnic demographic they want to represent, because this setting is inspired by a period in history where there were far fewer people on the planet Earth, and they were in much more insulated communities. And so there just wasn't this kind of mixing going on that there is today. And so doing diversity casting the way they're doing it here intrudes on the setting that they're wanting me to buy into, especially when parents and children are obviously from very different genetic backgrounds with no explanation, no mention of adoption or anything like that. I'm just like, what? Wait, she's his mother? What is going on here? So it feels anachronistically American and modern, and something that is taking me out of the world and the story that they're trying to create here. I appreciate some of what they're trying to do, but I think there's a better way to do it that more organically fits the world that they are presenting. Okay, as far as the visuals go, man, I think the sets, the costumes, the lighting are great and clearly meant to evoke the production design of the movies. This might be the strongest element of the show for me. It's a world I'd love to just walk around in. And I think that the effects, the CG effects and things, probably match the quality of the movies. It's been a while since I watched them, but I think they probably match the quality of the movies. However, the movies are old enough now that that's not a huge compliment. If you go back and look at those effects, they are dated now. There's a few moments here and there in these first two episodes that betray the CG nature of backgrounds, of big cityscapes and things like that, for instance. With all the effort that's going into the practical design elements, I would have loved for the CG as well to also surprise me and really raise the bar of quality for what we expect from streaming shows, instead of pretty much matching what is probably the highest standard in general. I think there's probably one or two streaming shows that are better in terms of the CG quality. But anyway, so no serious complaints. It just would have been really cool for them to raise the bar again for us. Okay, as far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Well, the story and its potential themes are spread thin between various characters, and so that does, I think, work against a potential central theme really standing out strongly. But Galadriel's motive stood out to me. She sees the danger and the evil of the big bad when everyone else is saying he's gone, he's not a problem. Her viewpoint is also distasteful to some of those around her, even though she's ultimately trying to save everyone from terrible harm and death. And so if you haven't guessed already, I see some parallels to our experience as Christians who, in our own experience, have learned the dire threat of sin to us, to everyone, the dire threat of evil, and what that results in if we don't take a different course of action. And like Galadriel as well, we can at times become so driven by our beliefs and our convictions that we become insensitive to others, as Galadriel is a bit while leading a group of elves in pursuit of the evil that she believes is coming. So I think there may be some good opportunities to reflect on our own lives as Christians as we watch Galadriel and the choices that she makes in this season. But will I stick around to watch that journey? Well, I have no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip this one for now, wait until at least the entire season is released, and then put it on like a second screen while you're playing some dinking around in some open world video game or something, and see if it ever eventually pulls you over to give it your full attention again. The production quality is about as top-notch as it gets, but the story and pacing are just advancing things way too slowly for your tastes. Hopefully that will change in Season 2, or maybe later on in Season 1. This one's rated TV-14 for flashing lights, frightening scenes, alcohol use, and violence. And those are all my thoughts for now on the series premiere for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episodes 1 and 2. As always, I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making so much of my content possible. You can get info about the benefits of being an insider at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Then I hope you'll check out the Christian Geek Central podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, Peter Franson here. Want to play games to save lives? Then join me again this year for Game Save, our annual charity fundraising event in support of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, whose compassionate care and cutting-edge research has been saving the lives of children all over the world for decades. Joining the Game Save team only requires a willingness to ask friends and family to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Team members also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising, like a special game night at your church or home, or like me, you could do a crazy 24-hour video game marathon. Now, I'm theming my fundraising around video games, but you can use tabletop games of any kind. What you do to raise funds is really entirely up to you, but by joining the Game Save team, you can get support and encouragement from myself, from other team members, and have more attention drawn to your fundraising efforts. You can get more info about the origins and heart behind Game Save itself at gamesave.christiangeekcentral.com. To join the team, just follow the invite link below, make an account at tiltify.com, then from your dashboard, create a new individual campaign using St. Jude Play Live 2022 as your cause, and check Support an Existing Campaign. Type CGC in the campaign search field and select CGC Game Save 22. To help your donors, I recommend including CGC Game Save 22 in the name of your individual campaign as well. After that, it's a short, simple process to finish up, and you'll be an official member of the Game Save 22 team. After that, as team leader, beginning in October, I provide team members with weekly tips and resources to make your fundraising as fun, easy, and effective as possible. October will be our main push for fundraising, capping things off with my annual 24-hour video gaming live stream on November 5th. Although you are welcome to continue fundraising until the end of November 30th, when our official final total will be tallied. If you have any questions before or after signing up, you can reach me anytime at paeter@spiritblade.com. I'm happy to help, and I hope you'll consider being a part of this with me. I can't wait to get started. Thanks for listening.